Hello and welcome back. Let's continue talking about Metasploit. Here's my previous map scan just for our memory. Before moving on, I want to show you two important things about Metasploit that I probably showed you a little too quickly in my previous video. So let's start Metasploit with our command msf console. You could use Armitage with a GUI, but I'm a command line guy, honestly, so. Okay, at this point, let's pick a random exploit. Whichever one we pick is irrelevant. I don't want to exploit the victim machine right now. I only want to show you two important things about the platform in general. Okay, so I chose a very common Windows vulnerability, much more common in the wild than it should be because a bunch of people don't patch their systems. And anyway, one thing I want to show you is that we can customize the target systems. Normally we would have Metasploit pick up the target system for us, but if we happen to know what specific Windows or operating system in general version is running on the victim machine, we can choose a specific target from this list. And the same goes for payloads. So we can choose a specific payload instead of having Metasploit make the choice for us. I thought it was pretty important to show you. Alright, so that being said, let's try to exploit our victim machine on the other end. I have a Windows XP virtual machine. And for some reason we can get a shell, which is pretty weird because the specific vulnerability, once you have the specific conditions, should be exploited pretty much all the time. I don't know why. So I'm going to use a different exploit, as I happen to know that this Windows XP virtual machine has a vulnerable XAMPP version installed. XAMPP is practically a handy solution for having a local web server on your local computer, and it can be installed on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So I'm going to choose a specific exploit, and here you see the information related to this exploit. What I want to point out here is the rate. It's very important. You see that in this case this exploit is rated as excellent. This is very important because for an exploit to be rated as excellent, the victim machine must be never taken down. So in other words, you must be really stealthy, keeping a low profile, and never take the victim machine down or cause a denial of service. The only option we need to set up here is our host, which is the IP address of our victim machine. And let's launch the attack. At this point I can get a shell successfully, but something looks pretty off here because I can't really have a connection. All the sessions I have with my interpreter die on me. I don't know why. You see, I keep opening sessions and they keep dying. So To understand what's going on, I try to connect manually to the dev directory on the victim machine through a tool called Cadaver. And though I can connect, if I try to upload the shell to the victim machine, which is what the exploit is supposed to do, we don't have right permissions on the web directory. So that might be the reason for the situation. As my hacking attempts are all failing, and this is a horrible approach because I'm making a bunch of noise, I'm gonna create a custom exploit with msfvenom. The options of the command are pretty straightforward. P stands for the payload, I is the number of iterations, in this case 10, B is the number of back characters. Then we have the IP address of the attacking machine and the local port we want to open to pick the connection, the format of the executable, and the output file. We're gonna output a file in the root directory. Then I'm gonna move this output file to the directory of the web server so I can access to it from the victim machine. Alright, this is done. Now we can go back to the Windows XP machine, but first I need to create an exploit that uses that specific payload that I created. So I'm going to use a custom exploit called multi-handler, and I'm going to set a payload for it, which is Windows Meterpreter reverse TCP, the same one I used for msfvenom. I want to point out here that the options of this payload must be the same as the options we set up with msfvenom. So both the IP address and the port must be the same, otherwise we will be unsuccessful. And as a matter of fact, you see that I set up the IP address as the victim as our Kali machine, but I forgot to set up the local port to 1234. I did it on purpose, so what I want to do as well is to set up this exit on session option to false. This way we won't have to re-exploit the system every time, and every time we're going to connect to the victim machine, a new session will be created for us. That makes our life much easier. Okay, all is ready for the machine to be exploited. At this point, I need to connect to the Kali Linux virtual machine from the XP machine through the web browser in order to run the infected executable. We have a problem here, and the reason is I forgot to start the Apache server of Kali Linux, but that's easily fixed. I only need to run this command to start the server. At this point, we can grab the executable and we should be good to go. I only need to launch the exploit from Kali and at the same time launch the infected executable from Windows XP. Something went wrong, so I'm going to relaunch the exploit. I didn't click the executable, but Anyway, we have a problem, and like I said, I misconfigured the port. It should be 1234 for the exploit to work. Otherwise, we won't receive any connection back from the victim machine. So I'm going to fix this right now by changing the option to 1234. And as a matter of fact, after doing that and after clicking the infected file once again, we successfully get a shell. But this time we can interact with it. Okay, so we can have our interpreter session open, and I can see the user ID. I logged in, and I logged in as a local user. I can easily get a privilege escalation through get system, and after this I'm gonna migrate to a more stable process in order to hide my attack too. In fact, if I try and look for the previous executable I was using, it's not found anymore because I migrated to a different process. So we're good to go. We're stealthy right now. We can now dump the password hashes like we did before. I want to show a couple of more details about password cracking with John the Ripper. I was probably a little too fast last time. So we're going to save these password hashes to a text file by using leafpad. I can also have more information by using Windows commands like this. This command is pretty handy because it tells us which hotfixes were installed in the system, so we can understand what vulnerabilities were patched and which ones were not. There's plenty of information available for us through this command, one of the most important in Windows. Like I said anyway, you should take all the time available for you to understand what a specific exploit does and whether it is suitable or not to your specific situation. What I'm doing here is just random trying different exploits and should it be done in a real pen test, even because you'll be easily detected, and that's not what you want. So now with John the Ripper, we can easily crack the passwords because they're very weak. Of course, I wouldn't use any of that in a production environment, and you should not either. Those are laughable, I mean. Those are anyway all the users I have on this virtual machine, so we can see that our goal was reached. So we're pretty much good to go. We have everything. We pawned the system. One thing I didn't show you before and is this. With the show option, we can have a better look and what the password looked like, because that replaces the password hash with the clear text password. So we had the same thing as the hash dump command, but with the clear text password. Alright. Okay. So that's all for today. Bye bye.